Welcome to CPG Vibes. No script, just chat. We talk all things food and beverage and so much more. Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review. If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service or be a guest, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Now your hosts, me, Alex Bear with Genius Juice, and Wade Yenny. And I'm muted. Welcome to episode 70 of CPG Vibes. I caught it really quickly. No script, just chat. Thank you for joining us. We have a late in the day, which means maybe my brain is not working as well this late in the day. 4 p.m. special edition show on a Thursday, not a Friday. Another reason we changed it from Friday Vibes to CPG Vibes. If you're on the West Coast, you're ending your day with us. If you're on the East Coast, you're having some background music during dinner, background noise, I should say, during dinner. So thank you for joining us on this special time and day. Wade, how you doing, buddy?
Good. In spite of numerous technology challenges, we've pulled this off somehow, some way. I'm currently without internet. Thank goodness for hotspots, but seems to be working okay, right? All systems are go. The show must go on.
Show must go on. I can hear you loud and clear. I can see you loud and clear. And yeah, everything is good. I've hotspotted before on Zoom calls, Start Engine, just all these different just video conference calls. Had one today, worked fine. I was in the middle of Highland Park in LA and no problems whatsoever for a full hour. So I'm we're relying really heavily on Apple technology for you to stay on here.
Right.
So some things to talk about here, some laundry list items. Number one, if you'd like to be a sponsor for our show, it's really filling up fast. I mean, we had tons of new sponsors, Wade, that came in May, and we're super excited for that. Very grateful for your support. And also we get to support you and spread the word about your brand, about your product, and make sure people go out there and buy it. And so it's an introductory deal, $350. I think we are booked up until at least mid to late July at this point. So we'd love to start booking those for August. So if you're interested in a sponsorship, make sure to reach out to us, cpgvibes100@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a guest, we are booked until I think the end of the year at this point, but exceptions could be made, at the higher ups, at the corporate offices of CPG Vibes. We can definitely flip the switch and get someone on if it's really, really crucial, or if timing wise, we have that power. So make sure to reach out to us, cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Lastly, 5 stars, 85 now, last time I checked. 85.
I was going to say, I didn't check this week. How are we doing?
Yeah, I checked like on Monday because what better way to spend your Memorial Day on Monday than to check your ratings on Apple Podcast? And I saw 85. So make sure, please, we're 15 away. It's literally, I don't want you to use your phone right now, Wade, because I don't want to jinx the hotspot. But You literally go to Apple Podcast. You see our beautiful faces for radio. Click on it, scroll to the bottom. 5 stars. It takes about 1 minute, but that 1 minute makes a tremendous amount of difference for us. We need to get to 100. We're 15 away. We're already, top 3 CPG podcasts right now. We want to get to number 2, eventually number 1. So please help us there.
Right on.
Sponsors, just want to mention them on the front end. We're getting better at this. We're not just mentioning it in the middle or the end. We're mentioning it 3 times, just like breakfast, lunch, dinner. This is the breakfast part of the show. So our sponsor, Wade, you want to quickly shout out?
Yeah. So our weekly sponsor is Don. I hope I'm saying that right, because is it a Scandinavian name? I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Don from Neolea.
Yep, at
Mediterranean,
least he pronounced one part of it right, at least.
right?
The product.
Mediterranean olive oils, balsamic vinegars, infused sea salts. So that's what we're going to be giving away today, courtesy of Don. And I've got to find Don's last name, Tolk, Tolk. I will tag him here. But he was nice enough to sponsor us this week. So happy to have him on board. And Neoloa.
Yep. Super, super high on olive oil and like basically balsamic vinegar. Just amazing. Comes in a ceramic, packaging, really high end. These things probably, I mean, if I had to guess, I mean, if I saw this in Beverly Hills, I wouldn't be surprised. I'll say that much.
It is fancy.
Yeah. And it's probably $40-$50 just for a bottle. Maybe it's less, but it feels like it's more from the quality, how it tastes, how it looks. So make sure to stay tuned in at the end of the show. We're going to ask a question, probably something surrounded, maybe about David Delcourt, could be about his, yellow jumpsuit, could be about Allison Kane and the name of her podcast. It could be about Kenny Hausman and where he's at. So who knows? It could be anything. So just stay tuned in. You can win that prize and pay close attention. So it's interesting. We have one thing I totally overlooked with scheduling this podcast is we have the first game of the NBA Finals happening. So
does that tip off in about an hour? Is it 8:30?
Maybe it's 8:30.
5:30 your time?
Yeah, it's the first game is in Denver, right? Not Miami. So that actually works to our favor. So maybe it's a little later. It's not East Coast. I was worried about that. So I guess we're going to be your pre-tip off podcast before you go and coast into the finals here. So would like to do some shout outs first because, and this is really interesting. We've had a guests on nonstop on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. For several weeks.
Yeah. And then we have guests after this show as well, going in for several more weeks. So it's really cool then when it's me and Wade. Number one, we both get to talk more. We always like that. Number two, we can really delve into several CPG topics that we're hearing in the community. We want to respond to based on posts we've just made. Wade has been chomping at the bit to talk about category review strategy. I mean, I think you've waited like a month just to.
Oh, it's just on the back burner. There's other stuff that's come up, and just to have some dialogue. We want to make sure that there's people, where it's kind of a weird time today, but just touch on the topic and have some dialogue with some of the stuff that I posted about recently. Just kind of what's been on my mind and kind of see if there's any questions and whatnot out there. So we might get into that. Who knows what else we might get into, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's something that I've been posting about lately. We can always chat about just the general challenges of distribution. We can chat about, what are the strategies to stay in business. We can chat about, I did a post today on LinkedIn, sales tips from the car. So I was driving, I had my phone kind of placed up at the dashboard. So I was looking at the road, but I talked about just, being on the road and selling and going to accounts and strategies. And it's not easy, right? And all these things. And it could be great. It could be terrible. It's a long road when you're doing sales on the road, I should say. Let's do some shout outs. And then I want to delve into all these topics. And then if you have any questions, if you want to comment on what we're saying, we will shout you out during this episode. That's the beauty of LinkedIn Live. So we have Tom Malingo. Hello, all. Thanks, guys, for including me last week. That was such a fucking incredible show.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It started with great Celtic music and it ended with a lot of smiles and like just great knowledge that Tom shared. brandjectorynow.com. He's been a past sponsor over and over again. And it was wonderful to see his face and hear his story on our show. Kenny, now with our new adjusted time, he can make it. Kenny Hausman, Foodland. So what's up, buddy? How you doing? Glad you can make it. And he said, if you're in Hawaii, post lunch podcast. I see. Yeah, got it. Because right now it's 1:00 there. Things are a little slower on the West Coast for me right now, mentally. Just end of the day, brain mush. Allison Kane, what's going on? Hey, team, popping in before Monopoly with my kids. All about Boardwalk and Park Place. That's all I'm going to say. David Delcourt, happy to be here. Great, good to see you, buddy. Go Nuggets. Also from David Delcourt, Adam Bent. Good to see you, buddy. Gavin Conkle, just talked to this guy yesterday. We're talking about just distribution. We're talking about scaling brands. He is doing very well with True Drinks right now, and they're getting into a lot of new stores. So congratulations, buddy. And he's due for some olive oil. There you go. Because you want to butter up the buyers, right? Or
There you go.
butter them up with olive oil, right?
Oil them up, butter them up, whatever it is you're doing.
Exactly. Alex was money this week. Wade, not so much. Okay. All right. It's Gavin taking a shot.
Typical Gavin. Typical Gavin. He buys a house. He thinks he's bigger than he already was. So, easy killer.
Yeah. You may have bought the house, but Wade bought it before you and he moved in before you. So
it was close. Yeah, it's close. We shared some pictures and we shared some stories. So anybody that doesn't know Gavin and I, we have a loving relationship. Mostly he loves me, but no, I love him too. So
yeah.
And Kenny, I don't know if that beard's real or not. Kenny, that's one for the ages.
Yep. So we'll see. I guess time will tell. Yeah. And then, I love Gavin too. This guy's he's a grinder. He's a hustler. He works very hard. All right. So getting into it, I want to start with the category review because it's kind of like category reviews are kind of like they're kind of coming to a close, right? Like spring was the more popular time. Is that right?
Well,
typically some or
yes. So typically you're going to see, a new schedule is going to come out depending on who you are. We certainly ran late this year. I want to say this year, 2023. But you'll see it come out usually sometime between, I'm going to say August and October for the following year. And then depending on your retailer of choice, you're looking at a start to finish process can be pushing 5 months, from the initial, hey, here's the calendar and this month is when we're starting. And then, you go through the whole process, right? You have, you send your email out, you have your meetings, you have this whole list of itinerary that needs to happen before the reset actually happens in store. So what I'm saying is typically if you're meeting in, call it October, November for the 2024 cycle, you're probably looking at on shelf in March, I'm guessing March, April, and most people are going to take off. They're not going to touch anything at retail outside of seasonal editions, peppermint, mocha, pumpkin, whatever. They're not going to do anything November, December. So, you finish up in October, maybe the first week of November if you're running late, and then it's quiet November, December as far as action at the shelf. And then you're rolling into January after the holidays as far as, going into execution again. So, but from a buyer's perspective, you're going to be, you're going to be having your meetings still in October, November, because what you're meeting in November about, you aren't actually seeing on shelf for 3-4 months down the road. So it's just kind of a long, tedious process. But it's a good time to be talking about it because we're talking about it on June 1st. And, there are the calendars for 2024 are going to be coming up here, I would say, in the next 2-3 months, I would say. So, planning your attack, some of the things I've been talking about is, your targets, you've alluded to too, make sure you're the right ones, but you do your homework now. And then, there's so many resources out there as far as calendars and contacts and all those things as far as getting that information. So is that kind of in line with what your experience is or what you see on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to organize a really great calendar, as you're mentioning, with it doesn't have to be complicated. It's very simple. You just do it on an Excel spreadsheet. You have all your accounts. When are the reviews? When do you have to submit by? Very, very important. And, every week with my sales guy, we're doing more regional strategy now, as you know, but a year ago, 2 years ago, with Gavin, the other Gavin Lindy, my previous national sales manager, who's moved on to Hop T, but we would meet every week and talk about when is the next review? When should we send these emails? How do we make sure not to annoy buyers, right? How often should we follow up? Should it be me? Should it be Gavin? Who has the better personality, right, for the buyer? Who's a better match? So these are all really important things just to plan out in advance. And then obviously, like you said, picking the right retailers. And like I did this post yesterday, which I call it viral. I'm kind of taking a liberty with that. It didn't go viral, but I got maybe 25,000 views, a couple hundred, likes, I think 50 to 60 comments. That's, to me, in my book, that's viral.
It's viral. That's viral.
That's viral. It's a CPG viral. It's more in the community viral. That you just got to be really, really fucking careful about how you choose your retailers and also when to say no. Like I've been in meetings, and I've traveled to these meetings, right? Like I flew out there and like it took, 2-3 days there and back, plus all the expenses in the hotel and travel and food and all that. I'd be in these meetings where they're like, yes, we will take it, but there's a free fill. And I'm like, well, certain retailers, yeah, I'll fold and do a free fill because it's necessary. It's what needs to be done. The retailer, treats everyone the same. Everyone has a free fill. But if there's a retailer that you're not 100% confident in that you're going to get a return on your investment on that free fill, and you feel it's going to go okay, the velocity is going to be okay, but you may not see your return. To me, it's like, it's pretty clear cut. You are in business. You want to protect your margins. You want to protect the sustainability of your business to stay in business. So if you need to say no, then say no. And you can always come back to them in 6 months or a year. A lot of entrepreneurs, and you've seen this, Wade, like they're in a hurry to grow. They're in a hurry to grow. They got to take advantage now, because if they say no now, maybe the door is closed forever. No, it's not. You can come back in 6 months to a year, either when you have more brand awareness or it's a better fit, or maybe it's never a fit and you just don't enter into that retailer. So I think like that's a really key mistake that a lot of brands make, which costs them a lot of money. And then they launch with too many SKUs. I mean, that was also in my LinkedIn post. It's like, like 3 SKUs. Okay. Like to me, the poster child of launch success, and they're a competitor to ours, but I shout them out, is Koya. Koya started with 3 SKUs. Okay. Harmless Harvest, who's another really deep competitor to us, they started with 2, I think. The coconut water in the big size and then the small size. That was it, 8 ounce and 16 ounce. Koya did the same thing. They had coconut almond, so testing my memory, vanilla, and cacao bean, those 3. And they launched nationally in Whole Foods to test it out so that if they lost or didn't do well, they're hedging their bet, right? They're not losing out too much money if they have 10 SKUs on the shelf on their launch. So I think that's a key mistake. And then someone else also, and I'm going to go to these comments here, but someone also commented, don't go outside of your vertical as well. Like if you're really well known, Lemon Perfect is well known for lemon water. Don't go into lemon bars or lemon meringue pie, stay within your vertical, just blow out each SKU individually to get more sales out of those SKUs instead of trying to add more SKUs to get more sales. That's not the way to grow revenue. The way to grow revenue is with existing SKUs in existing accounts and really strategic new accounts. And I'll leave it there.
Right. Yeah. No, you hit on a lot of good points. And, it's the things we talk about week after week after week with regards to, just knowing your brand and doing your research on where you want to be and crawl, walk, run, and all those things. But, as far as SKUs, I always use, and I know I've said it on the show before, and I'll say it a million times, but I always use the baseball analogy. And so much of this business is, whether it's relationships or whether it's trust, and trust is hard to come by in this business, unfortunately, because, the old, you have to earn it, right? It's not given, it's earned, or what have you. But if you don't have a relationship with, I talk about setting samples and how that etiquette as far as all that goes. But, when you do have that relationship, or you're starting to build that relationship, and someone presents something to a buyer, right? And, this is going to do, to your point, you got 6 SKUs, right? Instead of, in your head, 3 of them or 4 of them are going to do well, right? And the other two, it's just being greedy, right? As far as you wanting them on the shelf. And but the thing is where I get back to the analogy is I'm like, talk to me about home runs, and triples, but you can't tell me that every item or everything you bring to me is going to be that. And if the more upfront and transparent you are with me, the more that I'm going to reciprocate on that and give it back to you and be like, okay, and it's scratch my back, scratch yours, that sort of thing. I mean, that all comes in time. But when you're first making your play, to your point, if you're trying to sell in 5-6 SKUs, it's like, crawl, walk, run, right? I mean, which ones are going to perform so that you can come back in 6 months or a year and say,
Exactly.
hey, we've done this. Now I've got these, right? I mean, but you got to prove that point. And instead of going in and trying, whether it's greed, whether it's ignorance, or just not being familiar with the process, if you come in with 6 and you end up getting 2 or 3 cut, it's going to be harder to swap out those 2 or 3 that you're cutting because you didn't perform on them, right? And so, but if you go in with 3 and they're all performing, it's a lot easier to justify a line extension, right? I mean, it's a lot easier to say, hey, these 3 are doing really well. Can we talk about the 4th? Can we talk about this? And go that route and off shelf and all those things. But if you're going in and just, swinging for the fences and you strike out, with what you've pitched, then, that it takes a while to rebuild that.
It does. And you lose a lot of trust and brand equity and relationship equity, in my opinion, with, the buyer and the retailer, because you're sitting in that meeting, right? Like, 6 months prior when you first pitched it before the next reset, saying, we have all the confidence in the world. This is going to do well. We want to put 5 SKUs in. We want the big brand block, right? A lot of brands talk about that. We need the brand block to succeed. But I look at it where, like, you don't need a tremendous amount of SKUs to have a brand block. I see companies where, number one, they hustle. So they have salespeople in the field in the right regions, and they have 2 SKUs or 3 SKUs. But guess what? Those SKUs are doing so well that the retailer expands the facings, right? Because it's going to run out too quickly. Like one facing of a really hot selling product, you're going to run out, right, Wade? And then you're basically going to be losing sales. And then your team has to go to the back, restock it. That takes more labor, more time. But if there's an extra facing or 2 facings, now they got 3 facings of each SKU, and there's 2 SKUs total, 6 facings. So it's like, and it will never run out. You get great sales out of it, and you get great brand exposure. So I think, like, it really comes back to basics. Will this product sell well in the store? And if it starts out with only 2 facings, will it sell well? And once it goes to 3 facings, 4, then you start kind of getting more and more momentum. The other thing, which is, I think, really key in having less SKUs out the gate, is you collect data from the retailer as well. Like, what is doing well? Like, what type of flavor does, something that goes into Harris Teeter versus Publix versus HEB could be totally different flavor profiles, or it could be something, or one flavor profile does better in a certain region than another region, depending on the retailer and the demographics and the shopper, or the benefits, right? What are the functional benefits? So I think, like, when you release 2 to 3, you get the data you need to say, you know what, in my next meeting with the buyer, even though we're going to stay in there, should I be pitching any more SKUs, or should we should stay with what we have? But if we're doing really well and it looks like people are really liking probiotics and this chain, okay, let me do another probiotic SKU, right, with a new flavor or something for more variety. So, like, it all goes back to the crawl, walk, run. It all goes back to being patient and not being greedy, right? Like you said. So there's a bunch of comments and some questions for you, Wade. So I'm going to, we're running behind because I think these types of topics really strike a chord. And
that's right. Call the neighbors, wake the kids, text your friends and tell them to jump on here. We're talking important stuff, right? Exactly. So yeah, fire them at me, Alex. I won't look over here on the side. I'll let you fire them at me, and we'll figure this out.
Okay, great. So some comments first. We were talking about just, picking the right retailers, not just being all about volume and growth. Who wants growth, right? I'm just being facetious there a little bit, but truthful in other ways. growth can lead to bankruptcy if not done the right way. So Allison Kane says ops folks want volume too, because they want the volume discount. So like the CEO and the sales side is being constantly pressured from the ops side to say, if we order another container of this raw material, we'll save this much money, and that's
Right.
where the sales side needs to push back and say, well, if we make this much and try to go into too many retailers, we could lose our ass and pay all this money in promotions and free fills and TPRs. And now we're not profitable. And now our margin is down to nothing. So there's a balancing act there for sure. David Delcourt, Alex Beer post on LinkedIn, and great brother. Of course, I'm going to show that one because stroking my own ego. All right. Kenny Hausman. And this is important because Kenny is a buyer at Foodland, and he was a previous buyer at Fresh Time as well. So he has a ton of experience in this field. And this is coming from a buyer, not a brand. That's what's really important here. And he says, man, personally, do not subscribe to the one size fits all free fill. Key. I wish more buyers were like this. I'd much rather see a small brand spend that cash on marketing to grow the brand, right? Now, this could be difficult to execute upon depending on the retailer's size. But if you plan and work the plan, that will drive success. I mean, like, it's like the things we do but do not say, or the things we say and do not do. This is really key, that so many brands would benefit from shifting some of that cost. Maybe not all of it. Maybe it's a compromise. Some of it's a marketing instead of just a big ass slotting fee, right? Or just,
right.
But I know every retailer is different on how they operate, and it's not a perfect world.
Yeah, and I think some of that also depends on your particular retailer is and how they market those funds, right? I mean, is it going into cost of goods on their P&L? Is it going into cost of goods? Is it going towards marketing? There's a lot of different variables there. So I don't disagree with him as far as prescribing to that one size free fill fits all. But you have to understand also that depending on who you're talking to, if it's a buyer, category manager, it might be out of their control because they're the person that's directing them, or their organization as a whole might be saying, this is what it takes, and they toe a hard line. So it's the same thing on the slotting side for a distributor. I mean, it could be the same thing. I mean, you could have the nicest, and I don't know it's about being nice, but you could have the best category manager in the world, but if their organization demands that they charge X for slotting, it's out of their hands, right? So there's a lot of different moving pieces there, and it's important that you know that going in. And the thing that I say time and time again is, between LinkedIn and just the community in general, there's so many resources. And, I talk all the time, you look at the list of people that are in this chat right now, and every one of them has a story to tell. And most of the people that are in here right now aren't competing with each other. Those are the people that you go to and say, hey, Allie Kane, what's your experience with this? Hey, Alex Bear, what's your experience with that? Hey, Gavin Conkle, and go work with, now, are you going to go to Harmless Harvest and Koya and ask some advice and, and things like that? Maybe a little bit different depending, but, if you're a frozen pizza, there's nothing wrong with asking about, a smoothie, right? And getting some of that feedback from the people, the buyers, the distributors, and things that you're dealing with, because that's what it's all about. It's the relationship, right?
Exactly right. And you're mentioning, there's always two sides to it, like two sides of the story as well, where, whenever you approach a relationship or a business dealing, you see it from your standpoint, you see it from their standpoint, and you see it from an objective audience standpoint, that, a jury, let's say. And so what I do see also is that retailers, they need to make a certain amount of money just to stay in business. They have overhead, fridges, labor, warehouses, trucks, some that self-distribute, a lot of overhead, a lot of people, a lot of personnel. And so when they're bringing a new brand in, that space is so valuable, right? That shelf space, like basically the higher ups are saying you need to make a certain amount per square foot in these stores, right? It's like center store, right? And so like part of the reason I think free fill exists is like, they're taking a chance on the brand to do well, because if it doesn't do well, they're losing an exorbitant amount of money because it's 6 months, right? It's not quick,
Yeah.
right? It's not 1 month, or it's three months minimum, up to 6
Right.
months. The product's on the shelf, and if it does not perform, you're stuck with it, right, for several months, and you're losing out on money. So I think the free fill, I can see it from the other side too, which is it's hedging the bet from the retailer side. So it's kind of like I see both sides of the story, which is the beauty of the show.
Right.
We can go
Right.
back and forth from a brand
It's like
standpoint and a buyer's.
it's like The Odd Couple if you go back a few years, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Felix and Oscar. But the other thing, and I know we got to get some questions because there's some good ones here.
Yes.
And we probably should have put this out there because this is going to be a good one. But the other thing to think about is you mentioned you hit on everything you said is spot on. The other thing that you didn't touch on is your, in theory, most of the time if you're getting new placement on the shelf, you are taking the place of something else that is coming off the shelf, and oftentimes that free fill is an offset to mark down that other product to help offset. Depending on where you're going, I've there's a lot of places, especially in the conventional world, that have like an end cap or a bunk or something where they a little thing next to the bathrooms where they have stuff that's been discontinued and it's marked down to get rid of it, but more than likely there's been some kind of loss on the retailer's end as far as I paid $4 for it, now I'm selling it for $2, so how am I going to offset that? So the free fill kind of when you factor in what you're getting rid of, you're getting on the shelf, and in this day and age, the broker community, I remember back in the day, I'm dating myself, but the cost of the advantages, those big companies of the world, they had people in the store 2 or 3 times a week. They were looking at new items, helping cut them in and things like that. You don't see as much of that anymore, at least on, and I say on smaller, but I'm guessing if I went back and talked to the companies that I've worked for over the years and say, hey, did so-and-so cut this in for you? They're going to say, no, we did it ourselves, right? And so that's the other piece is when you're talking about labor, and reconfiguring the shelf, the section, all those things, so it probably sounds like I'm pushing for free fills, but I'm just trying to put that perspective that it's not just about a money grab. There's a lot of other things that are going into thinking about, that placement and all that stuff. So
exactly. And I think we'll get to the questions, but I just, it also, as you strengthen your partnership with the retailer, I've seen this happen where the likelihood of free fills goes down, as well, because the retailer is comfortable with your brand. They know the product's going to sell. So if they release this brand new SKU, they're like, this looks really good. The data is pointing towards this is going to kick ass. There's maybe some wiggle room there, right, behind closed doors, right? And depends on the retailer. Again, it depends on the brand, depends on the retailer, depends on the timing to say, hey, why don't we use that money for marketing for this brand new SKU? Or maybe I'll do some ads in your mailers or something that goes to your customers to get them to come in the store. So I think from a brand standpoint, it's always good to negotiate. It's always good to push back a little bit, but also recognize that there are limitations. And there's also a certain way that retailers are doing business to stay in business at the same time.
Right.
So let's go to some of these questions. I'm just getting lost here.
I was going to say there's a lot of questions back further. Or there was a couple back further, I think.
Yeah, let me go. If you find it, let me know. I'm going to go further down from Kenny's comment.
Well, I know there's a question about MCBs. It was from and that's Matthew DeBoard. So he had one before that. Let me do that.
There it is.
So he's asking about MCBs take from suppliers, reach retailers like TFM, ultimately their customers. So and I think Kenny or somebody chimed in underneath that and kind of gave a little bit of feedback, and I'll just piggyback off what they said. So typically with MCBs, that's more often than not, at least on my end, that's something that's been negotiated with, whether it's a broker or a brand directly. So, and if that happens, that's 100%. Well, I won't say 100% because that's not necessarily true, but that's almost always going to be passed on to the end customer, the end consumer. And the depth of what percentage of that is just really dependent on the retailer. I mean, in the conventional world, if it's a 1 week promo, or a 1 week promo with a 1 week buy-in, they're probably going to give a little bit on margin to encourage movement and sales. So if my regular margin is 25 to 30%, I might be willing to go, depending if it's a front page item, I might go underneath 10%. But if it's it's in the middle of the ad or on the back page or something, maybe give up 5 points or something like that. If it's a TPR, just a shelf tag, more often than not, that's going to be, you're going to try and be margin neutral, or perhaps even pad margin a little bit, because you have to look at your mix, right? So you've got here's your target, your margin goal, right? And so what I just said, if you have a weekly ad, you're going to take a margin hit and say go 10 points down to drive people in with sticker shock or something. And then you've got your regular retail, which is X percent of your sales that's here. So your TPRs, so to blend your margin to get your ultimate goal, you have to massage the TPRs, the weekly ad, and again, I'm talking about a conventional setup here, a weekly ad, TPRs, and your regular retail to get to that desired result. And that desired result usually lies right at that regular margin, whatever that target is. And so your TPRs, that are just bib tags and things like that are going to be right at or slightly above to help offset what you're giving away on that weekly ad to drive customers in the store. So what I will say though, Matthew, though, too, is I have certainly been places where that they haven't passed it on, or they are choosy about what they pass on. Maybe if it's, it has to be a minimum of 20%. If it's not 20%, we're not going to do anything with it. We're just going to pad it, because again, and you can argue this or till the cows come home. And, if it's 10%, by the time you generate a bib tag, the labor, hanging the tag before, when you're hanging, when the sale starts, when the sale ends, all that involved, it's like, okay, am I really doing this for 10%? And really, what kind of discount is that ultimately passing on to the customer? But then the other piece is that that I've seen is and it's more prominent now than ever, is the labor aspect, right? I mean, you have so many hours to accomplish. And so from a priority standpoint, again, I'm using conventional background because that's kind of, I can change it if anybody wants to know. But, when you look at your prioritization, you've got your weekly ad, right, that drives your business, and that changes every week. And it's your hot things that are driving people in the store. So if you're hanging tags and signs, that's your first priority, is to make sure whatever your ad break is, Monday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week it is, you getting those signs up, those tags up for the new stuff, taking the old ones down. That's your first priority. And then behind that is your TPRs and things like that. So oftentimes what I see happening is, maybe they've passed on that discount, but from a prioritization standpoint, and also from just the hours of the day, how long it takes to get that other task done, maybe they aren't getting to all those TPRs, and so maybe they aren't getting up there as fast. But I also know people that, notoriously back in the day, that when the conventional world was going through a big EDLP push to try and offset Aldi, Walmart, and things like that, there were certain retailers who weren't competing either like what's the word? Logistically, they weren't in right next to Walmart, so they didn't have to pass on those allowances. They were just like, well, Walmart, the nearest Walmart's 30 miles away. Why am I going to pass on all these deals? I'm just going to pad my margin. So I've seen it all over the board, and it's but I can say, the other thing, and I touched on it a little bit with the labor piece, is just, if you generate 1,000 shelf tags or 2,000 shelf tags in a month, you have to think about how long it takes to hang every single one of those. And so there, I have been in spots where you've had to prioritize. Either are you prioritizing by category, are you prioritizing by brand, are you prioritizing by discount, what have you, to say, okay, I've got 2,000 potential deals here. What am I passing on, and what's the priority? So it's a pretty bottomless pit if you get into it. So there's just some thoughts to on
Yeah.
his question. So
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to the story on just the labor. I mean, it keeps coming back to the labor aspect. And I think a lot of brands and salespeople, when they go in stores, they have no idea how much labor is done to get that end cap or to reset this cooler or to put the tags up. And so, like some retailers, they're trying to circumvent this by doing electronic tags. I see Whole Foods doing that, where like it's electronic. There's some system. I don't know exactly how it works. It still has to be manually done, but it basically auto populates under one brand. Let's say there's 3 SKUs of Genius Juice. It goes from 569 to 449 on sale. The tag, the letters turn red, right, on the tag instead of black, this white electronic tag. And then it shows the new price and it shows a sale. What I don't like about electronic tags, just to go totally off topic, I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, Wade, you can't tell it's on sale. Nothing
right.
beats that yellow drop down tag that gets people's attention. And there's plenty of data. If you look at, even Whole Foods has the data, Amazon has it, where if you have electronic versus paper, paper wins every time. It's tangible. You see the drop down, the color is brighter. You see it from far away under the store lights, all these things. This is why Costco does not go to electronic tagging ever. It's always a big piece of paper and a little plastic placard. Very old school, but that's how they do it, and it works really well. I wanted to also just comment on the retailer helping and sharing, because we have a lot more questions to get to, but I just have to mention this. Usually what I've experienced as a brand, the more extreme the discount is, the more likely the retailer is going to help. I think you said to yourself, if it's like 20%, 15%, I'm going to pad my margin. I'm going to make sure it's margin parity. I'm going to get my 35, 40, 45%. But if the brand is like, you know what, we need to do a big push because, it's the summer. We're selling whatever, watermelon water, whatever it is, right? Something that's great for the summer. And so with that, you do a BOGO deal or a really deep discount, and then the retailer co-ops it. They lose some margin, but it lets the price go down even further. Hopefully, I'm not boring Wade to tears because right now it looks like he's sleeping. But I think his screen froze because he's on a really janky internet. So I'm going to keep going through the comments. I put my co-host to sleep here. This is the beauty of live and what makes it so fun. All right. So, and we lost Wade. He's going to come back. So Allison Kane, how negotiable are conventional slotting fees? I'm going to leave that to Wade because honestly, with Genius Juice, we have really stayed away from big conventional accounts, but Wade is all about conventional. Some other shout outs from Gavin Conkle, Matthew DeBoard. I know some retailers take it and pass it on. Others don't and bake in the margin. Again, like when we did a promotion at Publix, BOGO deals in the past 2-3 years ago, they would co-op it because even though their margin's going to be lower, right? They go from a 40% margin down to 30% by co-opting the deal and getting that retail price down. Many more units are going to move on a BOGO or a 30 or 40, some deep cut promotion versus a 15 or 20%. So at the end of the day, the percentage is lower, but the gross profit and the sales are higher. So that's where it makes sense for the brand and the retailer really to partner up on this. So what else? I'm just passing the time until Wade gets back. I think he's back. I'm adding you back to the stream. There you are.
I disappeared. Yeah. I was good for my hotspot for a minute, but
yeah. Well, what was funny is when I was talking about co-oping, BOGO deals, deeper cut discounts where retailers can help. You went like this, and I think you're close your eyes to nod and agree, and it froze like this.
It's funny. It's funny is I thought it was you that because it dropped and I was listening and then it just went and then I couldn't get back in. So
yeah,
I thought
I thought I put you to sleep. That's that. When you
Nah.
rewatch it,
I
it's a,
saw because I have two screens open. I saw
right.
on the one that it was frozen. I was like, oh man, I'm trying to get back in, and it's a little wonky getting connected
Yeah.
with the Bluetooth.
It's a
But
new the new
anyways,
home, the new home, the new home, first world problems.
yeah, right, exactly. So what I miss? What I miss?
All right, so I was just going through some comments. I basically just talked about co-oping and how if it's a deep cut promotion, then retailers are more likely to come on board, right? Like a BOGO. And then Gavin Conkle, we're just going to go through a lot of these questions and also comments because we're way behind. Matthew DeBoard, I know some retailers take it and pass it on, others don't. Allison Kane, this is from Gavin Conkle. Some I work with are strict, others will knock it down, but not a lot of wiggle room. And especially in these times, profit margin, gross margin is more important than ever. People are spending less on certain premium goods, especially natural specialty. So a lot of these natural specialty stores we're going to start seeing, in my opinion, and already are seeing, they're padding their margins a lot more to make sure that, they're getting what they need to stay sustainable, especially like a public company, right? That reports to their shareholders.
Right.
So, God, a lot of the comments from Gavin. There's another one. Feels like they'll help take care of you. Okay, so another one from Kenny. I got to read this one. To expand on Gavin's point, each retailer handles them differently. But if we're talking standard publishes off invoices, these typically get back into margin, depending on the model the retailer has, cost plus versus cost minus. If we're talking custom MCBs, they negotiate directly with the buyer. That's enhanced with a standard OI, usually leads to price reduction. That's why building a direct relationship is key. And I think like OIs are great for one reason and one reason only, just to get that EDLP. Like every single bottle or package that's sold from the distributor to the retailer is on discount. And that's a really clean way to do it as a brand. If you have margin to give, which is most brands don't, or you feel like, hey, I'm going to be cutting my margin, right? The brand's margin from 37 to 32%. But guess what? I'm going to sell so many more units to where even though I'm losing on margin, I'm winning on revenue. And actually, you're winning on gross profit, right? Because you're selling enough units. And that's a calculation. That's an exercise as a brand owner you should do, or a VP of sales. If our price is at $4.99 and we have this margin, if we go to $4.49 or $3.99, is that going to move the needle? And if it does, what are the new sales projected to be? And ask the buyer, what do you think the new sales will be based on this price reduction with your customers? And if you do the math, you get this many more units, even though you're losing margin, but at the end of the year, you have more gross profit. It makes a lot of sense. And the other thing, part of that question too, is brands are also baking in MCBs and OIs to their price, right? To their selling price to distributors. So, and that's becoming more crucial now than ever with all these discussions on LinkedIn about these national distributors, about all the chargebacks, where, most brands now that I'm talking to are baking in minimum 15 to 20, like 15% to brace for different chargebacks and fees and distribution fees, freight billbacks. So that's ultimately, Wade, also driving up retail price as well.
Well, I think that comes back to kind of my example with, okay, so if I have a margin target is here and I've got all these different price types when you're talking about TPRs and weekly ads and regular retails and items that I'm marked down to get rid of, et cetera. But I still have to hit that overall goal. I've got to blend my margin to get there, just like you do on the brand side, right? You have to, okay, so here's what I want to sell it at, but I know I'm going to have to do this and this and this and this and this. So you got to put all those pieces together and say, okay, X% of my sales are going to be at this cost, and then I'm going to have this come off and this, whether it's discounts or any of those other things you mentioned. Yep. So you, at the end of the day, still want to get back to whatever that target was. And it's up to you. You have to do a good job of managing that to make sure that it works out in your favor.
Exactly. And as a brand, Wade hit the nail on the head. Do not sell yourself short. Just like a retailer should not sell themselves short. They need to pad in appropriate margin commensurate with the risk of bringing in a new brand, or the risk of doing all these end caps, the risk of all the labor that it takes to reset a brand or put sales tags on. It's the same thing. I'm very passionate about this for a brand. Start out higher. Just start out higher. Like, as long as the price isn't ridiculous, like you're not pricing yourself like at, an orange juice for $9.99. But if you're an orange juice at $4.59 instead of $3.99, to get proper margin to cover your cost basis, to cover for promotions and TPRs, and the shit happens in this business, and a pallet arrives and it's out of temperature and you have to send it back to your where, like, all these shit happen scenarios, plus standard fees of doing business with distributors. Pad that in. Don't be afraid to get a higher price, because Wade, you've said it a lot. You can always go down, but it's hard to go up with price.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think that's the number one thing that puts businesses out of business in CPG, is you start too low because you don't realize what all the deductions are going to be. You just don't know until you know. And then you also are under pressure to be competitive. And again, if you're going to a retailer and presenting, and they say you have to be at $3.99 to be in our store, to be competitive based on our data, because this orange juice needs to be at $3.99. And you say $4.59 is the lowest I can go so that we're sustainable. If it's a no, then don't drop it to $3.99. Just walk away and say, you know what? Once we get more economies of scale, this is the brand talking, in a year, we do some scale, we'll come back. And we're hoping we'll get it down to $3.99 and we'll resume the discussion. So some other comments here. I'm just going to blast through these. Gavin Conkle, I love retail, just better balance where I'm at now. I was 24/7, 365. I know, buddy. Kenny Hausman again. Totally understand, Gavin. My previous comment was tongue. Okay. They're actually talking between themselves. All right. So another one, LinkedIn user. This isn't a response. I don't know who it is, but
I think that's Matthew again.
This is Matthew DeBoard.
Yep.
This is in response to the discussion about free fills. The conversation assumes all the items in the category are all selling well and winning. A free fill compensates for taking a winner off shelf, but that is not accurate. Categories have a typical bell curve of items. There are always items that are not performing in the category. Taking a dog out of the set and trying to a new brand is better for a new brand is better for the category. So it's, again, seeing from both perspectives.
Absolutely. Right? Yep.
Okay, David Delcourt, take care. He's dropping off. Couple more comments here, and I'm also gonna. It's funny. Luis Alberto, welcome to our show. Imagine if he actually fell asleep. Remember, it's 7:00.
I was just gonna say I'm pushing 8:00, and I've been up since about 3:30. So it would not be out of the question for me to fall asleep. But I've been known to have a spell of narcolepsy here and there, but thus far, knock on wood, I haven't done it on the podcast. So.
Yeah, if you fell asleep on the podcast, I would have to really reevaluate how I'm talking, because that's the.
You do have that voice that just kind of lulls you to sleep, It's just
it is.
Yes.
It does. Yeah, my baby boy at home here, all I have to do is talk and he sleeps.
There you go.
That's it. So we are coming up on the hour here. Just wanted to reset the room really quickly. If you'd like to sponsor our show, email cpgvibes100@gmail.com. It's an introductory rate, $350. We mentioned you in the beginning, middle, and end. We have hundreds of people that are on here live, all flipping in and out during the show. Plus, you are on a legacy sponsorship on our Apple Podcast, which is permanently on our channel on Apple Podcast that gets replayed thousands of times a month. So make sure to reach out to us if you'd like to grab a sponsorship spot. And we also will wear your swag. If it's a product that we can eat during the show, we will eat it during the show or drink it during the show, because whoever we pick for a sponsor, we got to genuinely love your product, right?
Absolutely.
We got to be behind it, passionate about it. Okay, so I think next segment, right? Let's get into stuff we love real quick.
Sure.
All right, this is stuff we love. I think you already know what mine is. I found this finally, and shout out to Coconut Cult, because you're like, oh my, again. So I know it's late in the day. So but you're like, man, this guy fucking loves coconut cold. So they just opened up their new facility in Utah.
Yep.
Congratulations to Ari, to Noah, to the entire coconut cold team. And now we're going to see these shelves. It's amazing where there's so much demand. It's hard to find it, but the retailers are like, we're not going to just take it out because it's a great seller and we know it's coming back. We know they're going through growing pains.
Right.
And Ari has done a great job of keeping that relationship warm with all of the retailers to say, you know, I know it sucks right now. I know it's challenging. It might be out of stock, but guess what? New facility open, operational. We're going to start filling those shelves immediately and the sales are going to be bonkers, right? Because there's all this pent up demand. So I went to, just an idea of that, I went to Santa Monica Co-op, right, in Santa Monica, California. I don't know if you've been to that store, Wade.
I haven't.
One of the most amazing co-ops. It's kind of like on par with like Rainbow Grocery Co-op in San Francisco, like very local, like old school, like you go in, like regulars that go there every day and swear by them. Everyone has their, you know, their tote bag, their Santa Monica Co-op tote bag. They have their own membership. And there was 4 jars of coconut cold, 16 ounce, and they were $16 each. And I grabbed 3 of them. I left one, but I spent.
That was nice of you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an asshole. Like, what's with all the greed, right? And so, but I just snapped them up because it's been sold out there for over a month and a half, and they got it in. So
nice.
Grabbed it. So that's coconut cold. That's my stuff we love. And I'm going to take a spoonful while you talk about yours.
All right. Well, I think I have talked about, I don't know if I've talked about this particular product. I've talked about the brand before, but I've got, can you see that?
That's the honey, the Manuka.
Yeah, Monocora. And so these are really cool because I don't know if you can see inside there, but they've got the little packets, right? They're little on the go pre-dose, so you can just grab it, throw it in your bag, whatever. 30 packs in here, and
crystallized. It's like a powder crystal.
No, it's just honey inside a pouch. You just tear it and pop it. You're good to go. It's
nice.
So you know, if I want a little burst of energy, like just that, you know, that's what brought me back to life when I fell asleep. No, if you know, if like for me, I don't have a huge sweet tooth, but every once in a while, it's like, man, I want something sweet. Like that's perfect, right? Just a little, you know, 21 calories in that little package, and you know, I don't Google the benefits of honey if you don't know, you know, as far as especially Manuka honey. So it's convenient, it's portable, and the brand, you know, Michael Bell, the team over there, is just great folks. So you know, we talked about doing the mud water with the cream and honey and stuff in there, but this is great by itself on the go. So good stuff.
Cool. I'm definitely going to buy some of that. It's on their website, Monocora, right?
Yep.
Cool. You can post that in the comments. I'm going to go on there and buy some because I have the ritual we talked about, the rising tide, the mud water, and the honey. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So that is stuff we love. Let's shut that off and get to our next segment, which is Thursday freebies, not Friday. We have to change that. But here we go. It's going to say Friday freebies.
Friday freebies.
Okay, so I will go into the permanent sponsor first. Well, the weekly sponsor is Neolia with Don Tolk. We probably butchered your name, but let us know if that's correct. And then our long-term sponsor, who we love, it's Luke Abbott over at V-Driven. He's a CEO and founder of V-Driven, and they have provided very generously a part-time Vibeman that's really helping us. You know, you're starting to see some beautiful videos. LinkedIn company page, or updates there. You're seeing someone actually respond for once from our CPG Vibes email, because God knows me and Wade couldn't do it. So Keen, our wonderful Vibeman at CPG Vibes, has been doing a great job, and she does all the editing of the videos herself. It's pretty amazing. So she's the whole package. She's awesome. We love working with her. So V-Driven is a CPG partner for emerging purpose-driven brands. They fuel growth and innovation by providing strategies and support on every phase of the retail journey. I'm salivating from that coconut cold. It's hard to talk right now. I just had one spoonful or two, and
That's all you need. That's all you need.
Super satisfied. just like the Monocora.
There you go.
From leadership coaching, brand management, they do deduction fighting. They're like deduction fighting crusaders to help you get a bunch of money back. That will pay for them right there, just fighting deductions. They have a leadership team with decades of real life experience in all key areas. Luke also ran his own distribution company for over 10 years, and then he sold it to a large national distributor. So he knows his stuff. It's luke.abbott, ABBOTT at VDriven.com. And they have a great sales team. They know a lot of buyers. Luke takes them out to dinner pretty much nightly at this point. So he has a great relationships there to connect the buyers with your brand, get you in the store, get you on the shelf. Be driven.
Definitely. And our weekly sponsor, as we mentioned earlier, is Dan Tolk with Neolea. And so the little blurb I have for them is they are giving away a set of Mediterranean kitchen essentials by the Greek brand Neolea, including their award-winning extra virgin olive oil, aged balsamic vinegar, and 3 infused sea salts. So I think one, Alex, you'll have to help me. I think one is a truffle. Do you know what the other ones are?
You know what? I use them so quickly, I didn't even pay attention. But I see. Yeah, I can't remember what the sea salts were.
I'll find it. But yeah, so that's what they're giving away: the balsamic, the salts, 3 sea salts, and an olive oil. And Alex said the presentation on these things is just great. It's like a ceramic. It's just very, very nice. They have different flavors, so I'm not sure which 3 they will send, but they have a porcini. They have one that has citrus flavors. There's just a plain sea salt. There's a smoked sea salt. There's a Mediterranean herb sea salt. So I'm not quite sure exactly which ones he's sending, but rest assured, whatever you're getting is going to be good and just high quality stuff. I mean, it's good stuff. I don't know. Did you put the link up? I've got it ready. If you don't,
I did not.
I've got it. There it is.
Do that. Boom.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna make the question easy because brains are getting fuzzy at this hour. It's been a long day for most. I think for anyone that's in the every day's long but fun in CPG, right?
That's right.
It's demanding but very rewarding. So my question will be very easy. I think there's going to be an onslaught of people answering this. What state did Coconut Cold open up their new production facility?
Ooh.
If you haven't seen it on LinkedIn, you know, or heard us here, you definitely saw the post on LinkedIn. What state did Coconut Cold open up their new production facility? And there's a bonus just for bragging rights. Where is their first facility? City. Tell us the city and state. Okay, Tom Malingo I just knew Tom was going to get it, you know, because he's in that whole Arizona, Utah, New Mexico area, you know. So it is Utah. So you get Zion Park. You got 2 wonders of the world out there, Zion Park and Coconut Cold. That's all you need out there. All right. And you can do it together. You can be hiking in the mountains while having Coconut Cold freshly delivered from their new production facility.
That's right.
All right. And then just for bragging rights, Jeannie Gregory, slow. Exactly. And I know you know that because you work with them with a 0 standard and they supply you. So you know it's coming from slow. That's San Luis Obispo. I've been to their facility. I got a really quick story, Wade, but it's so I ran into the Coconut Cold team at Expo West. I met Noah for the first time in person. Big guy. He's like tall as me. Long hair. He looks exactly the same as you would on social media. You know, the beanie and everything. And I said, man, I went to your facility right like on 2 days before Christmas because I was traveling up there with my family. And I went to pick up some product there, right? Because I couldn't find it. And like, I got to go straight to the source. And that's my old alma mater. I went to college at Cal Poly. And so he looks at me, he's like, let me guess, there was no one in the front. You could have just walked right in and stole whatever you wanted. I'm like, yep, that was it. I literally walked in. It was like, I think the day before Christmas, no one in the front. I mean, it was secure on all the sides and everything, but the front office, it was like a ghost town. And it had this life-size jar. It looked like this. It was 5 feet tall. I almost stole it. I'm like, this would be so great to steal, but I didn't because I'm honest. So anyway, that's my story. I did go there. I saw their original production facility firing on all cylinders. So many online orders like that were ready to go out. It was crazy, Wade.
Wow, that's really cool. That's
busy
really
we
cool.
were. So that anyway, that's my coconut gold story.
Love it.
Next week, we have Dima Mararu with Guru Energy
Who's our sponsor?
as our sponsor. That's correct.
Our guest.
And our guest, I flipped those, is Tyler Watson with Dano's Seasoning. So, yeah. And do I have to say anything about these guys? They're larger than life.
Yep.
Yeah, they got the Kentucky spirit, right? They're from Kentucky. You can see this guy across 10 rooms. That's how much energy he has. And then our sponsor is Dima, as mentioned, Guru Energy. And it's going to be, I think we're back on for Friday, 2:30. Everything looking good from your side?
That's looking good on this side.
Cool. There's a slight chance we may need to move it on my side, but
we'll roll with the punches. We'll roll with the punches if we have to. You know what's interesting, and wait. Oh my goodness! I was trying to pull up some facts about Dano's, but they have on YouTube, and I know TikTok is kind of their fame right now, but they have almost 800,000 subscribers on YouTube, and their videos are they're all over the place, right? I mean, if you look at it, I think, I'm sure Tyler can help us with some numbers, but, every single video they put up gets, 8,000 views on YouTube. But if you go to TikTok, I'm pretty sure they've had several that have gone over 1 million. Am I right about that? Do you know?
I would say I haven't been on their YouTube, only their TikTok, probably over 1 million there. Definitely on TikTok. They are blowing up. It's just founder's origin story. It's the founder cooking meat and using their seasonings. And I want to also thank Tom for the anniversary wishes. Thank you so much. It's me and my wife's 6th anniversary coming up in early June. All right. So I think Wade froze again. So that's a good time to segue to the end of the show. Thank you so much, everyone. We will catch you next week, most likely on Friday, 2:30 p.m., 5:30 Eastern. Again, if you'd like to sponsor the show or be a guest, cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Introductory rate of $350 to be a sponsor, mentioned on the show 3 times, plus on our Apple podcast, plus on all of our promotionals on LinkedIn. So make sure to reach out to us for that. Have a wonderful weekend and take good care, everyone.